What's up, guys? Let's talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Snyder Cut, the 4+ hour Snyder Cut. This is a movie that I want to openly say up front that I liked. I enjoyed it. I did not think I was going to enjoy it, and frankly, did not have very high hopes for it. And I think one of the main reasons is because of what it's based on or what it comes from, which is the original from 2017. Joss Whedon came in, changed some things. Zack Snyder went through some things. The production was thrown into disarray from what I've read and from what I've heard from other shows and reviews and things like that back in 2017. And we got what we got with Justice League back then, which frankly I did not like at all. And I know a lot of people did not like either. I do like Joss Whedon, historically speaking, and I don't want it to sound like I'm blaming him for what we saw in 2017 because I'm not. But I think he was brought into a project, and that had to be tough on him too to cultivate that and turn it into something that frankly was not his, and he was just kind of working with what he had. Now, with that being said, fast forward to 2021, where we sit right now. I just watched it 4 hours. I broke it up into two viewings. Um, there are things about this, and this is spoiler free, just so everyone knows. I will not give away any spoilers on this little clip. There are some things that I still am not a fan of, seeing it this time around, 4 years later. But the things that were improved, in my opinion, are leaps ahead of what we saw 4 years ago. The cohesiveness of the story, the flow of the narrative throughout the film, the characterization, the character development of a lot of the main heroes and villains in the film, particularly Cyborg. And, we get his backstory, which was literally completely absent from the 2017 version. It's mind-boggling, especially seeing it now with the relationship to his father, how he became what we know him to be, and where he fits into the Justice League story, and what the point of that character was missing from Justice League in 2017, but is very prominent and very evident here. I also love the characterization, development, and the deep dive into some of the other characters in the film, particularly Steppenwolf in the first real half of this movie, the first couple hours of this movie. He's the prominent big bad, if you will, the prominent villain, and was done so much better. Again, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but even in the first half of the film, the scene against the Amazon warriors when he comes to get one of the boxes, and the battle sequence and the chase kind of that ensues was, guys, I don't know if you remember bits of that from the 2017 film, but just seeing that 5-minute sequence and putting that split screen against what we had to work with in 2017 will tell you the tale of what I'm saying from the Snyder Cut, from this version. There's some gripes that I have as a quote unquote critic, which I'm not, but as I'm sitting here giving you my impression of it, and as a movie lover, nothing is going to make me happier about the Snyder Cut than just knowing that Zack Snyder was able to do this. Even if I hated it, I would still have some form of enjoyment, and I would be proud of him in a way that he was able to go through what he went through, not only in his personal life, but in the production around this picture 4 to 5 years ago, around just his attachment to the DCEU in general. Come on, man. I would be drinking myself into a stupor every night of my life if I had to deal with the amount of criticism that he has dealt with in his life. And I've given him a lot of that criticism, not publicly necessarily, but I'm not a huge fan of his style of filmmaking. I've made that vocal, but I respect the hell out of what he did with this project. I respect him as a filmmaker. It's funny because Sucker Punch is one of my favorite Snyder movies, and everybody hates it. I love Sucker Punch, and I like this movie too. I like Justice League, the Snyder Cut. Literally, you take the Justice League from 2017. The Snyder Cut is that times 100. I mean, it's so much better. It's so much more cohesive. It's such a it makes sense, guys. You know, and I know that sounds simple, but this movie makes sense. Gripes, the music in certain places, the sound drops, the needle drops, if you will, are weird. Weird choices are being made with some of the needle drops in this film. And the CGI is wonky. You know, some of the hero CGI, some of the battle sequences, it's pretty telling. It's just a little ineffective, and it was in the original as well. So I get it. It's hard to really update that stuff at this point. And that's really just a technical thing. It didn't take away from my enjoyment of the film. You know, the humor in this film, it's hard. I mean, I don't, again, this is going to sound like a negative, but it's not really. It's just kind of comparing it. You know, in the original, the humor was just like nails on a chalkboard in the original. In the Snyder Cut, it's a little more toned down. You know, Ezra Miller's character gives the majority of the comic relief in this movie as Flash, and his personal struggles outside of film aside, he was funny. You know, he was very charming, and I thought it was, you know, I thought the humor was still felt a little forced at times. Some of the jokes we'd heard already, which maybe that's why. But some of the new ones did feel a little more natural, and I did find myself chuckling and giggling a little bit more this time around at some of the humor in the film. Again, they're technical things, they're little things. You know, at the end of the day, for someone who is not a fan of really Snyder, and I'm not a fan of what the DCEU has been the last, you know, 5 or 6 years, to say that this is a great movie is kind of weird to me, frankly. But I got done with it, and I'm going, that was good. That was really good. I really enjoyed that. Where was that 4 years ago? How did we get what we got from Joss Whedon and the team in 2017 if this is what they had to work with? I just question how that happened. It was almost like a sabotage mission, I feel like, that it was that bad. It's just, it seems weird that we got what we got in 2017 if this was the template, because I feel like there was some really good stuff that we saw in the Snyder Cut and Justice League. Now, you know, it's 4 hours. HBO Max did this really cool thing where they put little indentions like timestamps on it to where you could take breaks. Snyder and the team did chapters. There's 6 chapters, so you could stop after chapters. I just did 2-hour viewings basically. And what I realized is doing it that way, or even if you did it in like 4 segments, like 4-hour segments, imagine if it was like a mini series or like a TV show. Those would be 4 really good episodes. Like a lot of really important stuff happens, whether it's dialogue or action pieces, and they happen, and then there's kind of like I don't want to say cliffhanger because the movie keeps going, obviously, but if you were doing it in hour segments, there's kind of like a cliffhanger at the hour, and then you get back into the next thing, and they introduce Flash, and then you get like a cliffhanger at the end of that, and they bring back in, and we meet Darkseid finally, and you get a cliffhanger with that. So if you break it up into like 4 1-hour viewings, I feel like that would be great, because I felt like there was something big happening at like the last 20 minutes of every hour throughout this viewing. I did 2-hour viewings, and it worked out well. It is streaming on HBO Max. I would say if you're a fan of superhero film in any way, including Marvel, that you should give Zack Snyder's Justice League a chance. And coming from me, as my loyal listeners will know, that is saying a lot. This is a good comic book action movie. It is way too long, but I do not count that as a negative in this case because of what Zack Snyder went through to make this happen. And for him to see his vision, I want to give the dude a hug. I think it's really cool. And again, even if I hated this movie, which I don't, I would still be proud to say, man, you did your thing. This is your vision. This is great. You made a great film that not everybody's going to love, but it is a good piece of filmmaking, and it is what he wanted it to be. And I feel like that's what's important. And I feel like he can hold his head high, and his team can hold their head high, and all the actors involved and so on, because this is the project that we should have gotten, or at least some form of, in 2017. And it's funny how certain scenes that were replayed here that were very similar, almost identical to what we saw in 2017. Some of my favorite ones from that piece of crap that I hated 4 years ago, that were my favorite scenes if I had to take away from, I saw here again. So it's interesting for me to think, oh, okay, so what was actually good about the movie in 2017 was really Snyder. So that was really telling as well. So, like I said, I respect it. I admire it. It's not the most amazing thing I've seen, but it is a good movie. If you're a fan of comic book adaptations, if you're a fan of superhero films, or really just action films in general, see this. It's going to be in theaters. It's also on HBO Max right now. If you stream it at home, I would recommend breaking it up either into two 2-hour segments or 4 1-hour segments. Whatever kind of break you want to take in between. But I feel like that would be a very powerful way to watch it, because there's always something leaving you hanging to come back to. And I enjoy doing that. So, Zack Snyder's Justice League, guys. I'm going to give it, as we're sitting here right now, this is a rapid reaction. I just saw it. A couple of the technical gripes I gave you, I did really, really like it. And I'm glad Zack Snyder got to tell his vision to the world. I think it's awesome, and I'm glad that it's out there, especially on streaming services. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 for Zack Snyder's Justice League, currently streaming on HBO Max. And patrons and followers, I will see you on the next Rapid Reaction.